Hi, and welcome to this special episode of K-12 Tech Talk. We have a quick banter back and forth about a few Google things that happened this week, but the majority of our show is an interview with a gentleman that we're calling Denzel. Denzel is a tech director at a school district that was recently hit with ransomware, and this interview with him covers from the moment that he knew something went wrong all the way through the recovery process with the forensics team, the lawyers, the insurance company, and when he found out that data had been posted on the web. Have a listen.
All things technical in K-12. This is K-12 Tech Talk Podcast with Josh, Chris, and Corey.
Live from the somethingcool.com studios, this is episode 31 of K-12 Tech Talk. I am Josh. To my left is Corey. To my right is Chris. And in a moment, we will introduce our guest.
Can you hear my cough?
No,
is that coming through?
You muted yourself very well.
Good job. Way to be a professional.
So, Chris, do you want to talk about our exciting news from somethingcool.com real quick?
Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt because we have shirts now. Right? Yeah, most of the time we do this and I don't wear a shirt. We've never talked about that before.
Well, yeah, me and Chris go shirtless. Josh goes pantless, and it's just a thing.
It is. What's it, Tidy Whities?
Oh, no.
We have the Corey Crocs with Corey calendar coming out soon. And the Tidy Whitey Josh calendar coming soon after that. We're going to release them like Marvel's been doing their shows. Like Corey's like WandaVision, which like everybody likes. Everybody likes Corey and Crocs. But you know that Josh in the underwear is coming up in 2023.
Right.
It's like,
this
get ready.
Show went off the rails early.
Yeah, anyway, somethingcool.com, a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. You can email Jeremy Porter at sales@somethingcool.com for all of your server and networking needs. And I always do wear a shirt. It's only Corey that goes shirtless. But we have shirts and hoodies for sale now for fun. Something Cool did give us some money to offset the cost of the shirts and hoodies. So their logo is on the back. Something Cool. They've been with us since the beginning of this. They believe in us and we believe in them. Somethingcool.com.
And now Corey's not muting his mic when he coughs, so that's been entertaining while Chris was trying to plug something cool. So I think it's been an interesting week. There was a Google Drive, Google Docs outage earlier in the week that raised a little bit of havoc for everyone, and it was down most of the day, 2/3 of the day, and then the Google alert messages caught up that everything was okay the day after. We got 65 emails from Google the day after the event was taken care of. So Google's got some work to do on their
Did you
outage.
get your switch access kind of lined out?
Yes.
We're lined out for now.
Yeah, I think we did. We went ahead and released 89 to everybody, and the calls kind of stopped after that. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I was going to mention really quick too. Google sent out an email last night that if you are one of the paid up or the upgraded versions of Google Workspace for Education, the plagiarism tool that out of the box, it checks against public papers and documents and books and whatever. But now they have enabled the feature or turned on the feature to the plagiarism tool now looks at content that students in your district have turned in. So you have, as an admin, you have to go into the admin console and turn that feature on to make it available. But now,
did you do that yet?
I did first thing this morning. I had
did yours work?
I don't know. My high school librarian was chomping at the bit.
Turn something on.
I did the steps in one of the screens, like where it shows like the shared drive.
Yeah, I don't know. It said make sure you have shared drive turned on, but it didn't say why or what to do.
Mine didn't populate correctly. And I reached out to Google support, and they said, "Well, did you wait 24 hours when you turned that on?" And I said, "No." So they told me to wait.
Interesting. Okay.
Whoa, what is this?
All I did was go in. I went in and turned on the, what is it called? Local plagiarism tool. Hey, Corey, there's a mute button on your microphone if you didn't
Can you
know
hear that when I cough into my shirt?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
we can.
Where's this tool at?
You go to Google Classroom,
It's
and
right on the front of the microphone.
No, the tool.
Google Classroom.
Yeah, apps, Google Classroom, and then
Did I get this email?
But it's a little heavier to not heavy.
Oh,
but
yeah, there it is.
there's a few more steps.
Oh, there are.
But you have to make sure you have shared drives enabled for your staff, which we do. And then that's all I really got out of the document, unless I read it wrong.
Well, you have to do like that Google service account.
Oh, I didn't see that.
What?
Yeah.
Oh
Like
my
when you
God.
enable originality reports school matches, it says that you can make it. Well, you already did the shared drives.
we have shared drives turned on, yes.
So like you enable that. It was in that email.
See, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah, here's the email.
Let me get to it real quick.
This is awesome. Dead air.
You enable you'll fix it.
Oh, this is good. Oh, yeah, I found the link. All right, I'll do this later.
You enable that thing, and then there's like this page, classroom.google.com/G/OA, originality school matches, and there's like a service account that it gives you, this long string, and you're supposed to take that and apply it to like your shared drive or whatever. It's weird.
Really? Send me those instructions, because I did not see that in the instructions.
And the instruction, I don't think the Google like.
I was going to
the
say, where did
instructions
you?
It's like one of those emails you get.
Interesting. Okay. I went off the Google Help document, and I didn't see anything about that.
Psh.
Oh, whoops.
Anyways, mine's not working.
Okay. Well, they did say,
But
wait
they told me to
24
wait
hours.
24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the two big things that we dealt with, or we were excited about this week. You guys have anything to add before we get to our special guest?
No, let's hit it.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Did
We
he
want to
quit? Is he still there?
do we want to talk about one of our other sponsors real quick?
Oh my gosh.
No,
Just
I'm
to-
good.
Get it out of the way.
Who we want to talk about? We got Provision Data Solutions, but they're not even in the country.
They're in Jamaica, man.
Provision Data Solutions doing the cornhole at Midwest Tech Talk coming up. Side note on that, I'm in training. I've been doing no carb. I'm getting my body ready to throw down.
Is that really true?
On day one.
Got to start somewhere.
But anyways, reach out to Ryan at Provision Data Solutions. They can help you out with anything. But not
All
this
right.
week because they're in Jamaica.
Yeah, they're in Jamaica. All right. So
There was
we've
a mysterious
gosh.
voice.
Yeah, he didn't. We didn't tell him that he doesn't speak until we introduce him. So
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. See if
He's
we
using
get
a
back.
voice changer too.
Yeah. So we do have a guest today. He's going by Denzel.
Oh, his name is Denzel.
Oh, sorry.
Not going
Okay.
by Denzel. You
Denzel.
don't go by Josh. Your name's
What's his last,
Josh.
what's his last name? Franklin?
Sure.
What?
Jefferson?
Washington.
Washington, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Denzel is at a school district that fell victim to a ransomware attack in the not too distant past. And he has agreed to come on the show with a little bit of anonymity to tell us about their experience and how they made it through, I guess, and what that experience was like, and all of the dirty details. Welcome, Denzel.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you. We've done one other interview like this with us. That guy was from Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
A huge district in Louisiana. They do their districts different down there. And his story made my skin crawl. The National Guard showed up and helped them rebuild computers for like a week. So we're really interested to hear your story. So with keeping in the mindset of a little bit of anonymity, give us an idea of your district size, client count, student count, what kind of devices you use, that kind of stuff. Could kind of set the scene.
Yeah, sure. So we're not too big. We're about 3,000 students, 300 staff, 1-to-1 with Chromebooks, K through 12, and staff are all on Windows 10 PCs. So about 450 PCs or so.
Those are desktops, I guess, not
all laptops.
Oh,
all
wow.
laptops. Yeah.
Okay, so you got some mobility built into your staff devices. So your size is relatively similar to Chris and I. Corey, I think you're a little bit smaller, right? Or about half the size?
Yeah.
And you always say Chris and I, but I'm 2,000. You're 3,000.
Oh, I don't know why I have it in my head that you're 3,000 kids. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about it, then you always revert back.
Yeah, I don't listen.
That's fine.
So yeah, we're very similar to Denzel. We have about 3,000 students, about 300 certified staff. We do not have staff laptops, so I'm kind of curious. Guys, do you have any other questions for him going in to set the scene, or you want him to start the story on when they first realized they had a problem?
Just paint the picture, Denzel. Paint the
Yeah.
picture.
All right. All right. So I'll start at the beginning and just kind of what kicked it off for us. So it was February 25th. I had gotten up about 6:30 that morning, as I normally do, have my cup of coffee and sit down. And I'm sure, as most of you do, start checking my email and noticed that our phone system was down. So I was like, oh, great. Probably need to reboot the server, normal stuff. So I connect to the VPN, hop in, start trying to figure out why I can't turn my VM on. The server that hosted it was totally fine, but the VM wouldn't boot for anything. And then about 15 minutes later, I get an email from a teacher that had a ransom note on their login screen.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, oh, fantastic. So we immediately, made the call, pulled the internet, cut it off. We're not having school today. We're not being in person.
Josh mode.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything's down. Call the superintendent. He was like, do we need to shut school down? I'm like, yeah, we don't know what needs to come in. Luckily, most of our services are cloud hosted at this point. So, we use Canvas. So in the cloud, really nothing hosted locally that much anymore, minus our entire financial system.
Well, so that brings up a question too. Is your student information system on site, or is that hosted somewhere?
That's also hosted.
Oh,
so
okay.
We were functionally able to just pivot to a virtual day of learning. So the teacher still taught, kids still taught. By the time my staff and I got in, we were able to identify 30 devices that had been impacted by the ransomware. Basically, any staff that had been in that morning when the attackers pushed it out, got it and got hit with it. So we relatively came out of it fairly unscathed. We were able to get those staff replacement devices that same day, maybe a Chromebook, maybe it wasn't a laptop, but they could still access all the resources that they needed. Then it kind of pivoted into, okay, how do we get things back up and going? Fortunately, our backups were good. So, we have 2 physical servers on site, one kind of main server and one as a redundancy. They had kept intact the DNS and DHCP services, so clients could still connect and still get the ransomware they pushed out.
Yeah.
But every other server, they had encrypted the VM, so it was shut down.
So did they encrypt it, I guess, at the OS level or the VMDK? Like, were they able to gain access to vSphere and somehow do something, or did they do it?
They had access to every server on site. So we use Hyper-V.
Oh, okay.
So they had access to the Hyper-V host and encrypted the VDKs at that point, and game over, can't boot them.
Oh my gosh.
But again, we were functionally back up and operational by end of B the same day because we had good backups that we test routinely.
Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. Backups. So as far as arm's length or air gapped type backups, was your backup server in the same domain as your production servers, or was it standalone work group type?
It was standalone work group, so it wasn't on the domain.
Okay, so we're air gapped backups. Are you doing them to disk, or are you doing them to tape? What was that?
To a NAS, so just to a network attached storage through iSCSI.
Okay.
So backing up that way. Could they have, if they had been persistent enough, could they have found it and gotten to it? I'm sure they could have. They could have compromised credentials at some point and gotten to it, but they didn't. But we also back up offsite to Azure as well.
Okay. So go ahead, Corey.
Hold on. I'm a VMware customer, and I think the rest of the guys are here as well. Even though you're Hyper-V, how do you think they accessed your Hyper-V?
We were able to. We worked with a cybersecurity company to do the investigation, and we were able to determine that they compromised the logins of one of my staff.
Oh my gosh.
They basically had admin credentials and RDP access to whatever they wanted at that point.
So this wasn't more of like a virus or malware traversing your network. This was actual, they had credentials and they were
absolutely.
They were clicking the keyboard and mouse themselves.
Yeah, actually that same morning, I remoted in over the VPN, and I was in both as my account, which had some admin access, and as our domain admin account, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And then all of a sudden I got kicked out of the domain admin account and tried to log back in. The password had been changed.
Oh my God.
They were actively in the same time as me. And I was like, oh shit. And I started changing passwords, disabling group policies before I got kicked out.
Before
I had a tech on site to pull the internet.
Like, this is making me nauseous.
So you were at that point you were still home, right?
Yeah, I was still home.
How far away do you live from your school?
I'm about 30 minutes away.
Oh my! I could not imagine that drive.
Yeah, but luckily I have a tech that lives within 10 minutes. So
what'd you tell that tech to do?
I said, go pull the internet, go pull our ISP connection, just yank it. And they got there about 5 minutes later.
Oh my God. I could not imagine. I'd probably be passed out on the floor. That'd be horrible. Yeah, we've had a conversation.
My only fear was like, I hope our backups are good.
Yeah. So how often are you testing your backups?
We test them about every 3 months, about every 90 days. We'll pick a system or whatever and test it.
So you do a full restore, run it as a parallel, not on the network device, boot it up, make sure you can see everything.
Make sure everything boots and it works okay. Yeah.
Which I guess, this is god awful. Just this terrible story. But I guess this type of intrusion where it's an active person, as long as they didn't infect your backups, you actually probably feel better about your backups rather than like if it is malware, you have backups stored for a while, but you don't know, that malware could have been sitting on the servers for months, and then, it activates at a certain date and time. So, I mean, I think with this scenario, maybe you feel a little better if your backups restore, like, hey, we're in pretty good shape. If you had a malware attack and you restore, you're like, well, let's do virus scans, but I hope the malware is not sitting on the backups already.
Yeah, what we did make the decision, it's like, okay, do we restore AD? Do we just restore it and move on? Or do we just wipe it out and start over? So I just said, screw it, wiped it out and started over, because then I could guarantee you they didn't have access at that point.
Yeah, I would almost 100% agree that
you don't know what account was compromised. At that point, I didn't know. We didn't determine what account had been compromised or, really any action they took until about a month later.
So you said the first comments to your tech on site was kill the internet. I've had a conversation I've got two guys in my office, and I've had the conversation, if any of us ever get that call from a user that says, I've got this really weird screen up asking me for Bitcoin, the first thing you do is you go into our server room and you take a pair of hedge trimmers to the fiber connections, and we'll clean it up later. Yeah. Yep. Holy
seems
crap.
A little hedge trimmer seems a little extreme.
Nope.
Well, and who carries around hedge trimmers? I mean,
me. I've got a pair sitting right by our core just for that reason. In emergency, break glass.
So Denzel, so obviously the first steps is you're trying to mitigate the issue and then get critical staff going, then how long did it take before you're like, okay, let's call the insurance and let's like get the ball rolling on that?
So our basic standpoint through our incident response plan is, restore services, right? So we want to get people back in the building and functioning as quick as possible. So the first thing we started spinning back up was, all right, we need DNS DHCP going, got that restored back up. We knew we were going to rebuild the domain, but they were still able to log in to their old account. Even though the old domain didn't exist, it was still there. They could still log in. From an end user standpoint, there was nothing functionally different for them. They just knew we had to come and touch their device at some point. And then it became communications. Our phone system is still hosted on site, so we had a good clean backup of that. Got it back up and running. So once those were back up, then I felt comfortable saying, okay, we can bring people back in. We had already identified all the machines that have been impacted. Fortunately, we were still in this hybrid learning mode. So, not all of our staff and students are on site. So that, helped save us some headache for sure.
Interesting.
You just said something about the incident response plan. So your district does have an incident response plan that you can refer to?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I wrote it, it lived in my head, but it's just some basic, like, okay, let's make sure we're checking these boxes and not missing these things.
Do you believe that document did help you?
Yeah, especially if I had been hit by a bus, that it definitely would have helped. If someone just happened to walk in and figure it out, I would not wish that on anybody, but just having some kind of game plan to follow definitely helped. Because of course you're freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on and, hoping your backups are good and hoping you can get everything back. Just having that peace of mind, this, steps that I created when I was of sound mind,
right?
To point back to and go, okay, we need to check this. Let's check that. Let's move on. All right.
So you said your first steps were to get DHCP and DNS backup, which makes complete sense. But I'm thinking of like my environment. I have a ton of DHCP scopes. Did you have your scopes and ranges documented somehow? Yep. Okay,
yep,
you did.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we have basically a network spreadsheet that documents all our scopes, IP ranges, reservations, all of that stuff. So, documentation really saves you in something like this, where you're not trying to rack your brain and remember, what was the subnet for our early childhood center.
Right.
I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head, but I could go look it up and tell you.
Interesting. I mean, we had gotten into the habit. I've got a tertiary AD box that we turn on once a month or so. It syncs. It has DNS, DHCP, Active Directory, so it gets all that stuff once a month. But in Corey's thought process of, okay, what can you trust? And if you're really in the mindset of a zero trust type event, nuke it. You can't trust anything. So. And I guess that leads.
Yeah, and that's the approach I took was zero trust. It's like, I don't know what's been compromised. I don't know what's been, I wasn't necessarily worried about, reusing the same DHCP range, right? Especially if, if AD was brand new, I didn't care at that point. All our IPs could stay the same. But, so
that leads me to my next question. Then if my thought process in a zero trust type mentality in the heat of the moment, my first inclination is going to be every desktop or every PC is off network until it can be re-imaged. Did you guys go that route, or did you just re-image the ones that you knew had the 30 that you knew had a problem right away, or did you end up re-imaging everything?
No, we only re-imaged the ones that we knew right away. But we didn't even image those. It took a month before we cleared those through the investigators we worked with. But no, PCs that weren't infected, we allowed them to come back on the network for two reasons. One, our antivirus did catch it and stop it.
Oh, interesting.
It pushed out to about 30 machines. It was a PowerShell script that was running. So it eventually flagged that as suspicious behavior eventually, and stopped it on about 120. So I felt fairly confident that if it was still, actively being pushed from somewhere, that our AV would catch it. And then we also pushed a secondary monitoring through Sentinel-1, which I know a ton of districts use, but
Yeah, we use
the
it.
cybersecurity company pushed that out, and we pushed that out to every machine as we move them over to the new domain. So they monitored that for a month just to make sure there was nothing residual out there.
Were you relying on your antivirus logs to tell you how it was spreading, or what? How did you identify, these 30 machines got it? Like, what were you trusting for that?
Well, the 30 machines we knew because the staff couldn't use them anymore.
Right.
But then for all the remainder machines, for people that were still in districts, we physically checked them. So, if they weren't encrypted, we kind of went off. If they weren't encrypted and RAV and Sentinel-1 didn't flag anything, we went on the assumption that they were clean at that point and joined them to the new domain.
Interesting. So how quickly was the call made to insurance company or?
The following day, that very next morning is when we
Okay.
called them. And, I don't know what your policies are, but definitely check and make sure you have a solid cybersecurity insurance policy. We had to pay the deductible, but they paid for the attorneys, the cybersecurity insurance, the cybersecurity investigators, and they paid for 30 replacement devices.
Oh, wow.
Even though we were able to reimage those and reuse them, they still considered them, impacted and damaged due to the attack. So they replaced them, except for the warranty. We still had to pay for the warranty, which was interesting. But and just to give you an idea of the cost of some of this, just the cybersecurity investigation alone, if the district had to pay that out of pocket, was $55,000.
Holy cow.
We have yet to receive the bill for the attorneys. I suspect it will be, six figures easy.
So moving on to this part of the story, like you were, I guess, assigned a team, and then how hands-on were they? Were you just more of a worker for them, and they told you hey, we need this information, or how did that flow kind of go?
So they help with a whole slew of services. First, they want to help you recover. We didn't really need their recovery services. We had already, kind of established services and were back up and running at that point. So yeah, to your point, I was more of the, we need to try to capture this log, look at this kind of information. But if we did need help, we don't know how to rebuild AD, or we don't know how to do these things, they definitely had people that would have stepped in and help with that kind of stuff.
And I think the important point there is too, I mean, any IT guy can rebuild AD. I think the important part there is rebuilding it quickly.
Yeah.
Because you or somebody on your team, it might have taken a week to rebuild. I'm sure whoever the cybersecurity company was, a day and a half, and they've got stuff up and running the right way, to a standard of whatever. I think that's an important distinction here, is that, they bring in these teams that they know what the hell they're doing. So yeah, that's, were they decent to work with? Was insurance decent to work with? Was the cyber company decent to work with?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're very understanding, and, we're absolutely there to help. The attorneys as well. Unfortunately, we did have some information that was compromised, and we can talk about that a little bit. So we also had to do the whole notification process and send out letters. Insurance covered all of that too, and that was all done through an outside company, so we didn't have to rely on district staff to fill those questions and answer those phone calls and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've heard the minimum. I've talked to a couple different places where this has happened, both in education and actually in a healthcare environment, where a breach like that happened and they had to send out a notification. And everyone has said minimum, if that happens, minimum $100,000 just for that service.
Oh yeah, easy. We haven't seen the final bill for that, but yeah, it'll be. I think when all this is said and done, it'll probably be around 300,000 that we would have had to pay if we hadn't have had, the insurance.
Yeah.
Who figured that part out about the data being taken? Was that your team, or was that the forensic team?
It was both of us. So, we determined what, we try to determine what we could on our end through event logs and just, try and look at things. But definitely the cybersecurity people did, more of the legwork on that. And fortunately and unfortunately, most of the groups that do this and the one that targets us, they have PR websites where they post all this information.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to go look and find out, well, we know what they got now. We know where it came from too.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
Did they end up posting your data?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So at the beginning, I was 95% sure they got nothing. I'm like, well, we're fine. There's nothing. Told our superintendent, like, I don't think we'll have to worry about sending notifications. We didn't have any file shares anymore. Most of our stuff was offsite. Our financial system, the database looked actually intact. They had just encrypted the VM. So I didn't think they got anything there. But lo and behold, you don't always know what end users have stored on their devices, or when you have people that have entire files called employee social security numbers, those tend to get targeted. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, when I saw that, when I had been monitoring their site to see if we popped up, and then it popped up, I was like, damn it. And then I looked at what they had. I was like, why did you have these files to begin with?
So you,
how did you know who they were?
yeah, that I was going to say the same thing.
The person where the files came from, or the attacker?
No, the attack.
Oh, they tell you. So on the ransom note, they say, this is the group we are. Here's our website if you don't believe us. So you can go right now and look and see the several hundred targets they've hit since last year.
So did they ransom you? Like, did they give you a dollar amount to pay?
No, they did not. They gave us some .onion email addresses to contact them at, which we did not even contact them, to talk about payment. But I was like, yeah, I'm not talking to you guys.
Did you even have a conversation with the insurance about that? Like, did they advise you at all to pay or to not pay?
They asked, they're like, what are your position? I'm like, we don't need to pay. None of our data was, we restored. We don't need to get anything back. And there's no incentive for them not to post the information anyway.
Right.
So no, I didn't even engage with them at all, which is why they then eventually, posted what they got, but they would have posted it regardless.
Well, and from what I understand, it's not real cut and dry as far as the legality of a US based company to pay a ransom.
Yeah, especially a school district. I'm like, how do you even do that?
Yeah,
go to our board and be like, hey, we're going to pay a ransom.
From what I understand, the insurance companies actually work through a third-party intermediary that is actually overseas. So you're not actually paying directly the ransom company. You're paying this third party who then pays the ransom. So it kind of skirts some laws that way. But you're exactly right. Even if you pay it, what's the driver for them not to post the data?
Yeah. And if you pay it and they know that
honesty.
you're a target and you'll pay them, what's stopping them from trying to hit you again?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it wasn't data from a server. It was data from a client machine or a worker machine. Oh
data from a client, data from
which you can't, that's unpreventable. That cannot be stopped.
Yeah, it can be mitigated, right? So, we're looking now at, okay, we need to have some kind of software running to look for PII. We have that on Google Drive with DLP to scan for social security numbers and those sorts of things. But, now we're looking at, all right, we need something that we can push out on all of our Windows machines. Because unfortunately, it wasn't just one user. We had, when we told our users we were moving their computers over the domain, we were like, be sure you have anything on your desktop, backed up in Google Drive. I can't tell you the number of tax records that then got uploaded to our Google Drive.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh. And some of the people that were impacted, their tax records are on there. So not only were their information compromised, their kids, their spouses, their businesses. Some people had that information saved to a machine that was hit. So
gosh,
we have definitely a big focus next year of, trying to train our users that, these PCs are not yours. They shouldn't be used for your personal life. Okay, you want to do your taxes on them, but you don't need to save a copy to your machine or your school Google Drive.
Which I'm a little similar to you. Like, all my staff have laptops as well. And when your staff have laptops, there is a different feeling. They take the thing home every night.
Yeah.
And, they hook it up to their home Wi-Fi. And so there is a little different perception, I think, with, your teacher has a laptop, they take it home and they feel like it's a little more like, I've had some staff where like that the only laptop they've ever had is a district provided laptop. So like, obviously it's going to have personal use things on there. Whereas if it's just a desktop that sits in their classroom all day long, yeah, they're most likely going to have another device they might use personal stuff for.
We've and I guess this is a somethingcool.com plug, but I need to do far more than this. But they have a thing. It's like I scan online and I buy, it's like 3 a month. And like you just pick 3 random computers and it does a scan and it tells you like it would. And I've had this before, like a counselor's computer, and it says like, here's a bunch of, it ended up being like social security numbers of kids, like because they were going into the army or whatever. And it gives the computer a dollar amount. Like if that computer were stolen, this is how much is on there. But my whole bit, so okay, I did that and that's cool and it's on 3 computers, but taking action, like, okay, that end user had that data on there. I don't know that I like am at a good place or to have administrative or school board backing, like to nip, don't download that stuff or don't keep that stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you might not even get that until you get hit with ransomware and all your information is leaked. And then you go to them and you say, we need to spend X amount of dollars to fix these problems. And we need to hold people accountable to protect PII because it's not just my problem.
Because I felt like that thing I did was like $20 a month. And I felt like it was like asking a lot. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're scanning computers now for, whatever.
Right. I'm about to spend a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
And that's such a reactionary process.
It is. Yeah.
You can't get ahead of, especially any sys user, you can't get ahead of them, downloading a spreadsheet that had information they probably need to use for something. And then for them to remember, oh, I need to delete that file when I'm done. Yeah. Like that's, I don't know if that's even real world to think that.
Yeah. What's real world?
And there's software that will do that, right? There's DLP software for Windows that will, catch those files and flag them and then, delete them eventually. But you're talking serious money at that point.
Well, or you go back to Weiss terminals and VDI where every time they shut down, the machine's wiped. But that's horribly expensive and not a great experience either.
Right.
So to get back to the how of this, just real quick. So you would mention here's
the Denzel. Was it you? Was you compromised?
Thank God it was not me.
Okay.
No, it was not. I would tell you if it was, but it certainly was not. That was my first fear. I actually that moment at home when I realized it was going on, I was like, shit. I wiped all my computers in my house.
Oh my gosh.
I wiped everything in my house. I went to my son's room, like, I'm wiping your computer. It's like, but I need to play Fortnite. Like, nope, too bad. Everything. I'm like, oh my God.
There's a virus.
Like, if this came from me, I'm just turning my badge in and I'm gonna do something else.
So did the forensics company figure out how they were able to compromise your staff?
So unfortunately not, but they were able to determine that they had access to our network for around 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
That was the first action that they were able to find with that compromised account from, my staff member through a RDP server. So we did have one RDP server that they would use occasionally for different things. And I thought, it's only open to, these 3 staff members. Their passwords are fine. I don't think we have anything to worry about. Obviously we did. And of course they connected to that through a Tor node. So there's no way to even determine where they came from. But they were on the network for 2 weeks, collecting information to try to figure out, I guess, how to hit us.
So back up for a sec on the RDP server. Yeah. Was that publicly accessible for those 3? Okay.
It was.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's not happening.
So they somehow harvested credentials of one of your technicians who had elevated access And then I guess they probably did a port scan on your external address, on your external IPs.
Yep.
Found RDP
whatever.
port. Yep. Whoa.
Yeah. This particular group, in other investigations, they almost always initiated with some kind of phishing email. So the assumption is they, hit an end user's computer, my staff member logged in, and then, or his credentials were cached and they, mimikatz and grabbed them. But the cybersecurity company agreed that it was likely initiated with a phishing email at some point in time.
So a phishing email that then installs some piece of malware on a machine somewhere in the district,
right?
That your staff member either logged into or had cached credentials on.
It kind of sounds a little bit of bad luck, if it happened to be this privileged account. Or maybe it took them 2 weeks. They could have been, maybe gathering other account credentials as well, and they finally found one that hit some pay dirt. That it really stinks that you'll probably never know. Exactly
they could have, they could have impacted a machine a year ago,
right?
There's no, we like to think that it was a quick in and out, but they could have been sitting on my network for a year monitoring. We went remote learning in the spring, and all the staff in my building was at home. Right.
Yeah.
Then we lose command and control at that point.
Yep.
So who knows what happened?
So admin credentials, do your average users have admin credentials?
They don't.
Okay.
Now some users need to for certain software requirements. There's probably about 50 on my network that had local admin access to their machine.
Yeah.
They don't anymore.
Yeah.
So, we're looking at, PAM, privileged account management programs that will allow us to rotate, admin credentials so it's not always the same. Use that to manage software that doesn't need admin credentials instead of having the local users. It's expensive, but I think it's a necessity. Or it's going to happen again.
Would LAPS fix that at all?
No, it would help if they had used, a local account. Yeah, compromise, but
not a domain account.
Not a domain account. Yeah.
Which I may have missed this account that got compromised. You said it was a domain admin account?
Yeah, they had domain admin rights. So game over at that point, right?
Yeah, that's over. Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of screwed no matter what. Wow. I had a question. I can't think of it. Chris, you got anything?
Well, I'm glad that you are sharing the story. Because I know in our experience, in our Tri-County area here where Josh and Corey and I hang out, we've had neighbors go through things, and it's easier to not talk about it than it is to talk about it, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
So then you're staring at them and you're wishing they would tell you what happened so that you can fix it for yourself.
Yeah, we have to be open and honest about this stuff. Even if there were things we did wrong. Should we have had an RDP server open to the outside? No, we shouldn't have. But did we? Yeah, and tons of schools do.
Yeah.
We have to be honest about this and learn from each experiences and try to get better.
The easy thing that I can say to that, so yes, you shouldn't have had that. But then earlier you told me you had an incident response plan that I don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
we
You're
did
doing your best.
Yeah, we did a lot of things right. I do external pen tests routinely. 3 times a year we have external pen tests done.
So you're paying somebody to do that?
No, we don't. We will partner with a local university that has a cybersecurity program.
Sweet.
I can't get them to call me back.
And did the pen test ever
call Maryville.
flag?
Oh, they flag stuff all the time. Yeah.
Well, did it flag hey, this RDP server it's a risk out there?
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, it's fine.
I've got an incident response plan. Shut up.
I was like, what are the chances? 3 people have access. It's not a big deal. It'll be fine. Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah, Josh, you're not supposed to laugh.
Oh, sorry.
But I have one. I just have one more question that I wanted to make sure I asked. How supportive? And you're not gonna bemoan your boss. But how supportive was your admin team when this started and throughout the process of hey, I'm trying to think of if this happened to me, I'm calling my super, probably on my way into work. Like, hey, there's a potential. We have a big problem on our hands. I'm driving in now. And then from after that, like, how was the admin team on like supporting?
I'm incredibly lucky where they have complete trust in me and my department. So, if I tell them this is what needs to happen, this is what's going on, they go, okay, do what you need to do. Same with our board. I know that's not the case everywhere. So I'm incredibly fortunate that, they were 100% supportive. There was never, finger pointing of going, why did this happen? This is your fault.
Yeah.
None of that. Yeah. We had an executive session with our board once we determined that notifications would be going out, and I pretty much laid it all out on the line for them exactly what happened. And they couldn't have been more understanding and supportive of us. I think it's just a matter of, how you control that narrative and how you interact with them. And, are you able to, to have that relationship with them? And fortunately, I do.
Well, and I think a big part of it is being completely honest and open with them.
Absolutely.
It's not one of those situations where you're going to say, hey, we got a problem, we got owned, and then hide half the story from them, and then they find out in an executive summary report from the forensics team.
I could have completely done that. I could have restored stuff. No one would have known. No one would have known except for me that information was posted and leaked.
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely. Does it happen? Absolutely. This particular group, I went on and I looked at all their other targets. There were many, many schools, none that I knew or recognized, but I would then Google and go look and like, was there a news article? Did they ever post anything to their website? No.
Wow.
Nothing, not a peep. So, who knows what businesses or schools have been impacted, and just, you never know. And this one group had 300 targets, successful targets in a year.
Wow. So just say one a day.
Yeah, really.
Holy cow. Were they Russians?
I don't know. Maybe, but I don't think the group that hit us has been really identified where they operate out of. So we did talk to the FBI. They called that same day and talked with me and asked if we needed any support and if we discovered anything to share it with them. Unfortunately, I couldn't. 3 days later, after we were hit, we got a notice from MSISAC, multi-state, warning about this specific group targeting schools. It's like, that would have been nice about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, geez. But really, 2 weeks ago, I get the MSISAC alerts. I read them.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Right,
yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. I live in fear most of the time anyway, but it's, it's just a level, what level of fear am I at today?
Yeah. I really think if someone is determined and has the right resources, they're gonna own you. They're gonna get your stuff. Have a plan, have backups.
You had mentioned that your antivirus software that you were using, it took a little bit, but it finally did start catching on.
Yeah.
Can you share what that was?
Yeah, it was a Avast. So we use a Avast business. Yeah, not the free version. We pay for the actual version. But yeah, it did catch it.
Interesting. So it I guess in recap, it still comes down to the human.
Absolutely. Yep.
And multiple humans at multiple levels. If it wasn't for your staff members that had a file named employee social security numbers, you wouldn't be in as deep as you are,
right?
But you still would have been compromised.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So not long after your event happened, there was a school district on the western side of the state that this happened to, very large school district on the western side of Missouri that this happened to. It'll be interesting if the post-mortem report ever comes out on that to see what happened there. Guys, do you have any other closing questions or comments for Denzel?
I did want to mention, if you want to know how effective your antivirus program is against ransomware, KnowBe4 has a free ransomware simulator.
Oh, really?
That will run against, most of the common ones, and it will tell you, if it would have caught them or not. It's a free tool that they have.
Huh. I'll have to try that.
Wait, you talked about like you went somewhere to see if the data had been leaked.
Yeah.
Where was that?
It was a Tor site. So,
Okay.
dark web. Yep.
Yeah, he had mentioned that was part of the ransom message on the machines.
Okay,
when
gotcha.
When they came up.
Yep.
Wow. Any final thoughts, warnings, takeaway? You must do this from your experience. Oh, I think he dropped.
He just got hacked again.
He did get hacked.
Don't
again.
say that.
Oh, hang on. He's coming back. Denzel.
I was out. I was done. I went to close the chat window. I hit the wrong head.
Oh, yeah. Chris said you got hacked again and then laughed. Pretty rude.
Probably. If I did, I move into a cabin in the middle of the woods.
Man, I think I would be living in a cabin anyway. I mean, good God. These guys make fun of me because of how high strung I am. I mean, Chris
Sure.
had a little issue with Kaspersky, I don't know, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Where
Our antivirus ended up acting like it was a virus. It was just our antivirus spazzing out, but it had all the signs of a virus.
It was changing DNS servers on clients and pointing them. And, he's like, he called Corey first. He called me. Of course, my first reaction was call the FBI and unplug your internet. But it's just.
But Josh, you hear a story like this and you're like, oh, I mean, this is why I'm scared all the time.
Oh, absolutely. And I know this stuff happens every day. That's the thing. And there's only
the cybersecurity investigator I primarily worked with. He couldn't tell me what company, but he was like, "Man, you don't have it bad." I'm working with another client right now that has 7 sites across the country, 20,000 PCs, every single one impacted.
Oh my!
All of them ransomed. Everything ransomed. It's like, what do? You pay the ransom because you have to get it back. Like they had no backups. Like, what do?
No, a company that big and no backups.
No backups, or their backups have been impacted. Right?
Well, I think the scariest part is there's no 100% prevention.
No.
You do what you think is best. You learn from your colleagues at other districts. You work together. Somebody learned something. Like Denzel's taught us some things today. But there's still like you have users that are connecting to the internet. I mean, there's just no prevention. There's no
that's the risk.
Yeah. You employ humans. There's risk.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my takeaways would be check those backups. Don't cross your fingers and hope they work. Make sure that they're going to work and segment them off. So if someone does gain access, at least they're hard to get to, hard to find.
Yeah.
And have multiple redundancies in case they do get one, you got it somewhere else.
Right. I think I'm up to 4 copies right now.
And an incident response plan.
And an incident response plan so you don't miss anything.
Yeah. So
it's
Denzel,
the little things. That's a Denzel joke.
No. I'll include you in this conversation. I saw an email. I don't know if you guys saw the email. I think Corey did late this afternoon from a school district that said their cybersecurity insurance company is now requiring that they turn on 2FA or multi-factor authentication for all email, for VPN remote access, and any privileged network account for them to be covered under cybersecurity insurance.
Yeah, most of them are doing that now. We're already doing that too. 2 factors on for every single administrator, principal, counselor, anyone that has access to information on Google. It's already on, and we're pushing it out for AD for anybody that has privileged access to.
What are you doing for AD? Are you using the keys?
A company called Duo. So they're relatively inexpensive, and it's just a push that lives on the machine, and then it's an SMS message or you get an app on your phone to grant access.
Have you had any staff that said, "Not my phone. I'm not using my phone for work"?
No, not yet. In the fall, when I pushed to move every single staff member to 2-factor authentication on their Windows device, I'm sure that's going to happen. But I think it's an inevitability. I think you're going to have it. If not, this stuff's just going to continue. If we had 2-factor on, nothing would have happened. They wouldn't have gotten in,
right?
Or we would have been a much harder target, and they would have moved on,
right?
So I think it's inevitable.
Two-factor on mail, do you require it of all staff?
No, right now it's just anyone that has access to any PII, large amounts, not teachers, but counselors, principals, attendance clerks, all of the administration building.
Yeah.
So
that's what we do too. Well, and we just started doing that. Actually, this coming Monday is when I've given, there's about 50 users. So they've had like 2 weeks to turn on two-factor for their Google. And then on Monday, I enforce it.
But I know some districts where they've tried to do it and the unions got involved and prevented them from making it happen, which is unfortunate. But
well, Corey does it for all staff, right, Corey?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good on you, man.
Yeah, don't give him too much
pride.
Good on me. Did you guys hear that? Good on me.
Pride before the fall.
Well, Denzel, we really appreciate you taking an hour's worth of your evening with us to scare the hell out of us. But I think it's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile story to share. And like you said, it's a learning experience for everyone involved.
Right.
You guys firsthand, you guys learned a lot.
Absolutely.
But I know I've learned something tonight. Chris and Corey both probably learned. Well, probably not Corey. He's pretty smart.
Learned I need another job. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
I need another occupation.
Like shaved ice cream.
I want to I just want to be a lumberjack. Just go cut trees down.
Do you have a beard, Denzel?
I do have a beard. Yes.
My man.
That's too physical for Corey. He would need something where he could wear Crocs.
Oh yeah, no. There's no way I could be a lumberjack. No.
You don't even cut your own yard.
Oh.
No. Neighbor Don does.
Who is not a sponsor of the pod, but could be.
Yeah, if you want your grass cut by Corey's dad.
No, it's neighbor Don.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So Denzel, we appreciate it. If you can hang till we end the show, it's completely fine. I don't know how much more we're going to talk about. I know we need to talk about Aruba. Chris, you want to talk about Aruba Networks real quick?
Aruba, a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. A quick shout out to Chris. What's Chris's last name? I can't say it well sometimes.
Illingsworth?
I think that's right. Or Illingworth. There's no S, right?
Oh, I don't know. Corey calls him Jared. I don't know.
What's the Jared deal?
Corey whispered, Chris at Aruba.
And then also Jeff Cobb, who's an account manager. I think it's like Central Missouri. I could be wrong on that. But both those guys, account managers with Aruba, especially here in Missouri, they will take care of you. They take care of us.
I mean, we can probably let Denzel go, right?
Yeah, he can drop if he wants. If he wants to hang and listen to us argue.
I'm going to go eat my dinner now.
All right. Thanks, Denzel.
Hey, y'all have a good night.
All right. See you, Denzel.
Bye.
So
it's the little things. Did you get that joke? You watched that Netflix movie, Denzel Washington?
No.
Okay.
I mean, that was really something.
That's a good story. I don't feel like it was quite as scary as the Louisiana story that we did, but it was still pretty damn scary. Especially, could you imagine? Okay, put yourself in his shoes. Could you imagine being the one to check that website and then all of a sudden, oh hell, there's our name? And
honestly, I mean, I would step up, obviously, because it's my job. But like, no, I can put myself in those shoes pretty easily and get myself like super nauseous.
Yeah.
Well, I'm 45 minutes away from work, so that would have been equally. Now I have my worker now who he's much closer, and I probably would have done what Denzel did. Said, hey, I need you to get to the high school now and unplug the internet.
Yeah.
But still, like, oh my God, I can't like just
Ermagerd.
Yeah, Ermagerd.
Yeah, when I said that story about it, we talked in our office about if you ever get that call, unplug everything.
With the trimmers.
That's legit. I mean, we had that conversation. I couldn't imagine.
I would know. Well, Chris and I both have Kaseya. Kaseya does server monitoring, so when something's off,
Right.
Like I know right away, which I've said before, doesn't help my anxiety at all, because you'll have little ghosts in your network, and all of a sudden a switch will drop for 5 minutes or something, and
Right.
you're at 3:00 in the morning, you're getting emails like, oh, this switch is down. Well, that all that does is add to the anxiety. The switch comes back online. But yeah, no, that would be a terrible morning.
Yeah.
Wake up and see a bunch of emails that stuff's online. Immediately my first steps would be VPN if I can, and get into servers and see what's going on. And then you'll know pretty immediately like what the problem is. And then you go from there. But, oh no, that's nauseating to think about.
I think we need to consider visiting the dark web.
No,
No,
that's where the bad guys are.
no.
Okay.
And the fact that he said he was remoted in,
I'm
and
gonna push
while
the bad thoughts down.
And while he was remoted in, the admin password got changed.
Blech.
Right.
Oh my!
That's the worst.
God.
That was the worst part of the story, probably.
Yeah.
That's real.
Because there's one thing,
that's
and
real
I
time.
kind of said it earlier. Like, there's one thing, like if you have a virus just running rampant, doing things, but like, no, he knew pretty quick. Like, I got people on keyboards and mice
Yeah.
Right.
in my stuff right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof.
And I don't know who they are.
Oh,
Yeah. And I don't know that I would have been comfortable not reimaging everything. Just the way I
know
operate.
you wouldn't have been.
I know
Right.
I wouldn't have been. I mean, it would have taken the forensics people to tell me, no, Josh, you don't need to rebuild all 350 devices.
right. And that's where Denzel definitely, like he for sure, he stepped up to the plate quick, and he had the plan.
Yeah.
And he was actually able to tell the team, like, no, we're already in the rebuild phase. We're ahead of you guys a little bit.
Right.
Whereas my personality, I think I would lean on the forensic team maybe a little more like, hey,
Yeah.
you guys give me guidance. I'll click the buttons.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of give me the guys. Oh, you want me to reimage all machines? Okay, we're going to start that process now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Cause I mean, we can say what we want, but we don't know until we're in the heat of the moment, man.
Right.
And I was at a conference years ago, and Denzel presented. It was honestly the first time I had heard of a school district phishing their staff, and it was Denzel presenting on that, and that was, man, that was right after I got hired, so 7 or 8 years ago. So he and his team know what they're doing. And again, that gets back to the fact that this can and will happen to anyone. I don't care how good you are. You're a target, and there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do to protect yourself.
And then we're going to hear the story, and it's going to feel like deja vu. Another Denzel Washington movie.
What? My God.
That was incredible.
Thank you.
And
then we'll probably have some great debate about the right and the whatever things, best practices, and we'll become great debaters. Another Denzel Washington movie.
Or you forget about it like the Manchurian Candidate.
Okay, I've had enough. Any closing thoughts,
All right.
gentlemen?
I got one.
All right, what is it, Chris? Hit me. Not another Denzel joke.
Listen, all I'm saying is no matter what, remember the Titans.
Oh my God. Well, okay. So Titan keys are a form of UB keys for two-factor authentication. And that
I knew what Chris was doing.
That came up in discussion today with the news that some of those cybersecurity companies are requiring that UB keys can be an option for
somebody. I'm not going to ask who you have insurance.
Yeah,
I believe if it's the most popular one, I think we probably all three have the same.
Probably.
I saw somebody in the email thread we're talking about today said that company will base their rates on what your answers are to their questionnaire. So the 3 questions that were posted, we did meet 2 of the 3 but the third one we don't have any traction on at all yet. Like not even thought about it. So
Right.
like whenever that happens, that'll be, I mean, that's going to have to spur a conversation locally at my district with at least my superintendent on, hey, our insurance rate's going up. Do we want to entertain doing this, this tech policy, that should be done. And then plus it lowers your insurance rate. I don't know.
Yeah. And to me, the overreaching factor in that is the level of protection. And again, nothing's 100%, but the level of protection that 2FA would give you, especially on your elevated domain accounts, that's a pretty hefty protection. Chris, you got anything?
I agree.
I was going to say Denzel posted the link to that ransomware simulator, so we'll post that in the pod.
Oh yeah, that was a KnowBe4, who is not a sponsor, but I'm sure they would. All right, good show, gentlemen. Hope you all can sleep well tonight.
All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
That was a show. Thanks for listening.